Hello everyone, welcome to Hot Seat. I'm Omid Moghaddas from Tehran, and once again, I'm so happy to join you from this educational platform. And again, I'm so thankful that so many speakers from around the world, the well speakers, the practitioners accepted this invitation. And today, I'm so honored and blessed to have a dear friend and mentor, Dr. Kwang Bum Park from South Korea, is here with us. Hello, Dr. Park, and welcome to Hot Seat.
Hello. Thank you very much. It's my honor.
Thank you. I'm saying that I'm so happy to have you in the show. And today, one of the topics that I think is very important for all the implantologists to know, going to be discussed by Dr. Park, which is the importance of implant designs and digital technology and its influence in success of dental implants, which we believe is some kind of basic principles in maximizing success. And hearing these things from one of the leaders in this field, I'm pretty sure will be beneficial for all of us. So as a tradition, I will have a Dr. Park's CV for all of you, and then we will go to the presentation straightly, and after that, we will have a discussion. Dr. Park is a professor of the School of Dentistry, Yongpuk University, visitor fellowship of UCLA Dental University in the Department of Periodontics, active member of Academy of Osseointegration, member of American Academy of Periodontology, chief director of Implant and Periodontics in MINEC, chief director of Diego MIR Dental Hospital, faculty member of Harvard School of Dental Medicine, and director of Japanese Association of Dental Occlusion, and also CEO of Megagen Implant Company in South Korea. Once again, so happy to have Dr. Park with us. It's a pleasure, and the topic that he will talk about for us today is the importance of implant designs and digital technology in success of implants. Dr. Park, the platform is all yours.
Thank you very much. This one, okay. Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank you to Dr. Omid to make this wonderful seat with all the famous implantologists and dentists from the world. It's a great honor to me. And it's really sad, especially to dentists, to have this corona pandemic situation. But in Korea, everything is becoming normal. So people are on the street and on the shop, and they gather together. So I believe almost all countries, so everything will be fine soon. So it's about almost 3 months from the beginning. So you can count the dates from the beginning in your country. As Omid explained it to you, and my topic today is the importance of implant design and the digital technology in success of implants. So I believe everybody knows about the importance of implant design and how good the digital technology to use for the convenience and the easiness of implant surgery. So I will talk a little bit, only a little bit. It's not 100% because the topic is quite heavy if I want to tell the full story. Okay, so what is our ultimate goal, the final goal of the implantology? So many people say, so our ultimate goal from implant treatment is to make the complete function and aesthetics of natural teeth, as you know. But we need to think the minimally invasive and the period of the treatment time. So the first one, function and aesthetic, is the goal as a result. And I'd like to emphasize the minimally invasive and the short period of time as a process goal. So this is also very important. So already many speakers and scientists and the dentists made the perfect result. But it took too long in my experience. So in Megagen and in MINAC team and worldwide, to try to make a much easier and much less invasive surgeries, which can give us the same function and aesthetics as a result. So what we need to consider in implant dentistry, there are three different parts. The first one is our goal, the prosthetics. So the main reason for us to place implants is to make the ideal crown and occlusion, as you know. So to make this ideal crown and occlusion, we should do surgery properly. So in this part, implant picture, design of implant picture and the condition of a surrounding bone should be considered as an important part. And we need to maintain this result as long as possible without any problems. In this part, connection and the transgingival tissue are important. So I will mention some of these parts. As a final result, the ideal, we need to have ideal crown and occlusion, right? The tooth shape on top of implant should be just like natural teeth, as you see from the screen. And as a function, so we have to have a very good occlusal context and functional occlusion. So this is our goal. So we need to cooperate with excellent lab technicians and excellent digital technology. So the surgery is our main goal as an implantologist. So in surgery, there are two important things. So in my mind, what is if somebody wants for me to pick one important word in the implantology, I will choose this one, the position of implants. So without the adequate position of the implants, the result cannot be good. And initial stability is also very important to make all the process easy and minimally invasive and short. So for the position of the ideal position of the implants, we already know many important numbers for the biologies around the implants. The initial stability can make us minimally invasive, and we can do, in many cases, only one-time surgery before prosthetics. So anterior, this slide was made quite a long time ago, almost more than 10 years ago. So at that time, we had these numbers. So 3 millimeter below the future gingival line. But nowadays, because of excellency of connections and abutment fixture accuracy, so this seems to become deeper and deeper. So some implants nowadays is about 5 millimeter from gingival margin. But anyway, it's from 3 to 5 millimeter. So from the occlusal view, we have 2 millimeter in number. So we should have a gap like this, about 2 millimeter from the labial plate of bone. So it's also almost same, even in the posterior. So the implant should be at the center of the future crown, as you know. This is very important for the mechanics and for the long-term maintenance. And the major distally, so it's the same. So the implant should be at the center of the major distal length of the crown. The occlusal gingival position of the implants, as I mentioned, and at the anterior part of the implants. So it should be applied almost same. So what is the guideline of this 3 millimeter? So we need to imagine the future gingival line. The gingival line, and from the gingival line, the implant platform should have a 3 millimeter gap. Otherwise, the crown will be too short, and the peri-implant bone can be affected from the biology, microorganism, and the biology, and also the shape of the implants implant crown will not be good. And what is digital? I see in my mind, it's just for convenience. See? So we can see the unseen before. So, but the important numbers should be in our mind. So through the digital technology, so we can make a very precise planning with the digital technology, but we have to remind that the important numbers always during the implant biological concept. So with the advanced digital technology, so it became possible to understand the quality of bone. So it was not easy before, but with the digital eye and other softwares, we could see the density, the quality of the recipient site is much better. So we can define how strong initial stability you could get from the surgery. And one more excellent result of digital technology, in my mind, is sterilizations. So before these sterilization functions, we could get just some information from the image, and all the information should be reorganized in our brain, and then we should transfer through our hands to the patients. But with the sterilization, so we can make everything we want, from the surgical stent and the temporary and the customized abutments. So this made a revolution. And let's see one simple video. This is for central incisor. So it's quite, this video, I did the liposurgery, but quite a long time ago, but it's still very good to see. So I try to cut the sound. The patient had root lest on the number 21, and I made a small punch on the gingiva to extract the remaining root, and then adapted the surgical stent. Whenever you use a surgical stent, it's very important to check the accuracy of a surgical stent through the window. Otherwise, the implants will not be placed at the place where you want. And the others are just step-by-step drillings. So because of irrigations, limited irrigations, so you need to do more pumping than the normal drilling. And with the out-gate stent, there are some windows to indicate the position of the hex. So you can make the implants at the ideal occlusal apical coronal position, at the same time the medial distal positions. So implant was placed with excellent initial stability. So what is the excellent initial stability? It means insertion torque more than 45 Newton centimeter. Then we need to check the ISQ as well. If you have more than 75 ISQ numbers with 45 Newton centimeter insertion torque value, then the implant, that means implant is ready to have immediate loading. So this customized zirconia abutments was already made before surgery through the sterilization of the CBCT. Then, as you see, the gingival line is really perfectly matching with the patient's gingival line. So temporary was also made before during the treatment planning. So as you see, the surgery abutment and the temporary crown will take less than 15 minutes. At very good surgery, very easy, minimally invasive, with the help of digital technology. But digital technology, the biggest advantage of digital technology is ideal positioning of implants. This is very important, as I told you at the beginning. And with these techniques, we can place this many implants in 2 hours, and another 2 hours, we can deliver all the functional prosthetics immediately. So this is really important and very good for implant dentistry now, right? And the patient can enjoy chewing and the food at the same day. But we have to remember, we need to have very good implant systems, implant designs, so to allow us immediate functions, right? So many good implant systems which can provide very excellent initial stability, but you have to have some ideas. This is the result with the final restoration at the previous case. In 4 months, this is X-rays, panoramic view, when we deliver final restorations, and this is intraoral X-rays. So as you see from the intraoral X-rays, even we did immediate loading from the day 0, so the crestal bone level appeared very good, very stable, without any problem. And initial stability, as I mentioned, with the excellent initial stability, we can do one-time surgery, and we can do minimal invasive surgeries. To do this, we need to understand what is the biologically designed implant systems. Just one. So to make the perfect result, immediate loading with digital technology, digitally guided surgery, we have to understand the design of implants. Almost all the implant companies has features like this, but you need to separate the important part of the implants according to your wish. The first thing on the design of implants to separate, to differentiate from your implant system is to understand core and the thread concepts. So core is very important for the long-term prognosis. The core should withstand the occlusal force, right? And the thread is very important for the surgical period. So on the surgery, thread can make a very different result. And this part is really important. It's, we call it double offsets. So everybody understands that the platform switching, right? So with the internal connections, so all the implants can make some amount of platform switchings. But that, in my mind, that is not enough. We have to have one more platform switching at the bone level. So we cut the first thread from the top of the implants. So it can make the implant, the crestal bone thickness thicker than before. And the connection is really important for biological risk, as you know. And the surface treatment is secondarily important for the osseointegration. So we made the many studies. And as a result, we adopted the knife-threaded design on our implants. And so it gave us many benefits, especially on the excellent initial stability and much higher bone implant context. As you see from this table, just by changing the design concept on the core and the thread, we could get much higher insertion torque value than other implant system with normal thread. This is really important. And one more revolution was to make a different thread depths with the same core diameter. So why this is important? There was no implant system like this. Why this is important is this is really important for the doctors, for the dentist, for the implantologist. Before we use this kind of this shape of implants, so we just made the same osteotomy sockets to place the same diameter of implants. So if we do this, so as almost all of you already know, the initial stability is much worse at the loose bone. So we have to wait long. So we compensated the looseness of the implant fixations with time. So we depended on the osseointegration speed. But by changing the design, with deep threaded implants on the same chord of diameters. As a surgeon, we can control the initial stability. We can make a good initial stability even at the loose bone. That means so we can make a much higher, much better bone implant contact even at the loose bone. So no need to wait long. So we can start loading almost at the same time with the implants which was placed at the good condition of bone. This is a good example. So as you see from the panoramic view, the second molar area had much loose bone than the premolar area. So in this case, we have to wait long until the last implants can be accentuated perfectly. So in this case, I made the same osteotomy circuits. Of course, I felt much loose bone at the second molar area. And what I can do as a surgeon, so I can choose different thread depths with the same core diameters to make a much higher initial stability. This is the best option, and no need to make a drill bigger, and no need to make a osteotomy socket to condense the bone, loose bone. Osteotomy technique was good at the beginning, but it damaged bone. It crushed the bone. So in my mind, it's not good options. This is after surgery. As you see, what's the difference of thread depths. And this is a panoramic view after 7 years. So it's really, really good. And then there are one more important parts for the implant stability. There are two lines. The mechanical, the first one, the red one is primary stability, and the blue one is a secondary stability by osseointegrations. We have a transition period. At the beginning, we are depending on the primary stability, but with the time, by osseointegration, the secondary stability is becoming bigger and bigger. But we have a transition period like this, which week is the third and the fourth week. So because of this, so my teachers and many many doctors recommended to start loading at the recovery of stability, which was 6 or 8 weeks after placement. But if we can maintain the initial stability we get from at the time of the surgery, so we can do immediate loading much often, much better. So drop down of ISQ value was one of our interests. How we can avoid these parts. So again, the knife thread made many changes on these concepts. So when we use the traditional, conventional shape of a thread, there was quite a big compressive force, and which can make the implants. But by changing the design during the implant placement, it doesn't compress that much, just a cut and separate. So we could get very good initial stability. At the same time, we don't expect decrease on ISQ value. So very good initial stability, and it doesn't go down. So this is very important factors for the immediate loading. Right? So this case was made by Dr. Han, one of my colleagues. He placed the 8 implants like this. So the last implants were placed into the very loose bone. And this is after surgery. So he used the deep threaded at the loose bone and normal threaded implants at the good quality of bone. Right. As you see from the ISQ numbers, from the operation to the 9th week, no implant showed the drop down. So normally it should go down much bigger than the hard bone at the 3rd and the 4th week. Right? In this graph, almost no change. So he did the final restoration 9 weeks. At the upper arch. It's not just his final restorations. This is one of my recent cases. patient had hopeless teeth around his mouth, and he wanted to have implant treatments. And I placed the 8 implants in molar in the mandible to give more confidence, because this is easier to make patients comfortable. And then maybe in 2 weeks, I delivered the custom abutments at the front anterior part of the implants, and I extracted all the upper teeth and waited 6 weeks for healing through AltoGate. And it was designed to place 10 implants like this. So healing was good. And then I made the surgical stent like this. It's very easy to use, and the positioning of surgical stent, especially at the full mouth case, is very important. If you make mistake in this space, all the implants can be shifted. So then, with the 3 fixation pin, the surgical stent was fixated, and I did drilling one by one and placed implants. But in this case, if you start from one side to the other side during the implant placement, the surgical stent can be shifted. So it's better to make drilling and the implant placement the zigzag. Okay? One implant, play right side, left side. Then you can maintain the stability of surgical stent. And this is after surgery. It took less than 1 hour. It's very easy because everything was prepared before surgery. And I delivered the custom abutments, zirconia custom abutment, immediately. I didn't connect it custom abutments at the last molar, because the last molar has too much occlusal force. So even the last molar had a very good initial stability. It's better not to load immediately. This is a frontal view, and the temporary bridge was delivered immediately. So it looks quite good, but not ideal, but the patients like this. Very good. So almost no bleedings. You can see the bleeding point of the fixation screw of the surgical stent, but it's not that much. Easy. So this is immediately after surgery. So 8 implants was loaded immediately. So this is intraoral X-ray after surgery. 2 weeks later, so everything became stable. So some gingival was still on the healing phase. The patient was very satisfied. The patients enjoyed the food very much. And only 9 weeks later, I finished the case with the final restorations. Only 9 weeks in the upper arch. And also at the same time, I made the final restoration on the lower arches. And so it's really easy because the final restoration, the shape of final restoration was already made on the treatment and the diagnosis and treatment planning page. So just I can copy the design file to the final restoration. So the patient had the teeth, as you see, from the surgical day, and 9 weeks later, almost done, finished. So this is combination, perfect combination of the implant system, which can give us very good initial stability, even at loose bone, and digital technology, which can make the ideal position of the implants. So this is left and the right, and this is upper and lower. So I think even the beginners can do this. And one more important thing is all these numbers, all these features were verified by scientific researches. This study was made at the UCLA Perio department, and it's already 8-9 years ago. So I had confidence, but many dentists had doubt how this knife thread can change the paradigm of the implant stability. And the doctors at the Perio departments of UCLA placed two different design of implant at the patients and check the ISQ weekly for 8 weeks. So, but we had more than several hundred data before this study. So it was it was the same with knife-threaded implants. So no decreasing patterns. But with the conventional screw, the yellow line showed the decrease on ISQ until third and the fourth week and made the plateau. So this changed the paradigm. This can change the paradigm. And this is another scientific research by Dr. Christian Macaulay in Lebanon. And we are going to make a very early loading protocol, not just a 3 months waiting, 6 months waiting, just a week-based loading protocols with Professor Macaulay. We are shortening the loading period from 8 weeks, 6 weeks. Now this time we tried the 4 weeks. So as you see, the initial stability from this design of implants could be more than 80 Newton centimeter in average. In average, more than 80 Newton centimeter of torque, insertion torque value is really good for immediate loading, right? So, but not so many dentists want to try immediate loading. So many doctors want to be safe. So okay, so 4 weeks you can take impression. And one more important thing is ISQ. So he placed 40 implants on this study, and then no implant showed decrease. The ISQ was very well maintained, and it was very high from the beginning. At the surgical day, it was more than 70, and it was maintained until fourth week. And then final restoration, the function started in 4 weeks. So it shows 100% survival rate in a year. So from the clinical cases I showed you at the beginning, so this is just a common sense, not just a heroic case. So everybody can follow this rule. And because of a deepened thread depth, some doctors had a doubt how you can have a complete bone ingrowth to the base of the depth. So as you see from this table, the 8 millimeter diameter of the enriched implant has a 1.65 millimeter depth of thread. It's quite far, right? But how long it takes to fill this gap with the new bone? But the concept is quite different. So from the X-ray, so you can see the complete bone fill almost from the beginning. Why? It's because of these concepts. With the conventional way of implant placement, we engaged some part of almost a half or 1/3 of a thread with bone, and the gap between bottom of the thread and a bone should be filled with time. So because of this gap, it takes time. But with the enriched implant system concept, so we are already close at the dense bone, like the type 2, type 3 bone. As you see, no need to get the deepen thread. So this is really good. And we are engaging according to the density of the bone. So the bone is already there, just very near to the bottom of the thread. So even at the immediate placement, you can see in many cases, the bone is already filled. So this is also good for immediate loading. And this is another animal test we made almost 10 years ago. See, so in 4 weeks, this is a rabbit test, rabbit study. Even the rabbit has a very excellent bone regeneration capacity. So in 4 weeks, the bone was completely filled to the bottom of the thread. Not only in animal, this is another very interesting research from Dr. Francesco Mangano. He could get 1 implant out of a patient mouse. So this was only 1 month after placement from the SEM evaluations, as you see. All the space already filled with bone in a month in human being. So this is the basic scientific support for the immediate loading and the earlier loading. So partly because of the implant design, partly because of surface treatment, which is XP, calcium ion incorporated on top of SLA treatments. And then initial stability can give us much more advantages on surgery. This is really beneficial to the surgeons. Okay, so what is the most difficult case? So large extraction socket and low reach and the sinus area need more. If you understand the initial stability concept and the core and the thread different separation from core and the thread design, so you can solve the problem of a large extraction circuit and the limited height of bone under the sinus area. So you can do 1 surgery and a very short unloading period. This is one of a good example I try to share with you. So patient had a very large extraction socket. As you see, look at the remaining bone. So under the sinus floor, there was only 2 millimeter bone. What is this? What is your treatment options? These are our clinics in United States and in Europe, which are very conservative countries. So they prefer to place bone graft, socket preservation techniques. And then 4 to 6 months later, they're going to place implants with a primary closure. And then 3 to 4 months later, open again, and then prosthetic procedures. It's just for 1 implant, so we need to spend almost 1 year, which is not good. So the key, what is the key in this case? The key is initial stability. If you can get very good initial stability from this limited height of bone, 2 millimeter limited height bone, everything will become simple. So I drew through the sinus floor, and I didn't care about sinus membrane because I will not bone graft into the sinus and place the very deep and threaded implants. And after placement of implants, as you see, so the defect became nothing, almost nothing. So almost 1 millimeter plus minus. So this space is easily can be filled with new bone, as you know. So, and with the excellent initial stability, I could do 1-stage approach with the like doing 2-stage approach. So I placed a small amount of bone graft and a simple membrane, and then 1-stage approach. And how long we should wait? In this case, it's within the defect is within jumping distance, so no need to wait long. Only 3 months is enough. So I took impression in 4 weeks, 4 months, and then finished in 5 months. Just 1 surgery. Right? And this is the result almost 7 years later. And then this was the first, the initial conditions. So look at the bone overgrowth over the top of the implants and overgrowth on the platform of the implants. So this is what we want. Only 1 surgery and a very short period of unloading period. And by adapting the deepened thread and the knife thread, so also we could get very big advantage, which is the surface area. And the surface area means also interaction power. Right? So how many square millimeter of surface area can be integrated with the living bone? That is the key, one of the key points. So in this limited height, the patient has only 3 or 4 millimeter of available bone from the from the sinus floor to the crest bone, but this height of bone was enough to get enough surface area. The total surface area obtained was almost same with the 4 by 10. So I could do one stage approach instead of two stage. So I did only one surgery and very minimal invasive, no sinus bone graft. And in 3 months, impression taking was possible and delivered temporary. Actually, even in this case, in 5 months, everything finished. And 5 years later, the result was same. So this is another case. What I want to say is that initial stability is the key point. How we can get initial stability? By using deepen the thread at the loose bone and by using the different depths of thread. You can adjust as a surgeon. Okay, maintenance is also very, very important. Our patients want to use the implant and the prosthetics for their lifetime. How we can maintain the healthiness of the peri-implant tissues. So everybody knows that the difference between natural teeth and the peri-implant tissues. We don't have a cementum and the parental ligament, which is the main power to maintain the periodontal tissue. So that's why we need to have a thickened bone and a thickened gingiva to maintain blood supply, not blood supply. The blood supply is the key in everywhere. And then this design can make a much better than other implant systems. How? So from this X-ray, you can see the difference very easily. So same diameter of implants. It looks a little bit narrow because the core is strong enough, and we put the emphasis important on the thread design. Can be made ideally, but in this case, as you see, we have a more bone on the crest. We have a more thickness of gingiva, which is very good for the maintaining of gingiva and the bone health. Okay. So let's see from the buccolingual view. There was a medial-distal view, so almost no difference with the other implant systems. So in this case, you can see what's the difference. Right? So the bone has the same dimensions, but by changing the design of implants, gingiva became much thicker and the crestal bone became much thicker. This is the key. So you can get 1 millimeter more bone, 1 millimeter more bone than the other implant system. So very, very easy to maintain the healthiness of peri-implantitis, peri-implant tissue. And the connection is also very important. When we use the external extra implants, there was a very big biological width, which is about 3 millimeter in 1.5 millimeter in radius. So the 1.5 millimeter bone nose was considered as normal, but it was not. It was because of different biological concept. There are many different kind of connections in the world, from 1.5 to 11 degree. But we found 5 degree is really good for the connection stability and for the biological width. So from the slice view, you cannot see where is the connection, where is the connection, where is the implants, where is the abutments. So this is perfect sealing. And then the connection became revolutionarily strong, very strong than other connections. So if you connect the abutments with the prosthetics and the abutments with the fixtures properly, there is no screws in, and also much less biological waste. So because of this, as you see from the previous case, the bone, in many cases, bone can grow over the platform. So with the other connections, I didn't have the kind of results. In addition, this is much easier to find out, see? So even the patient has a very limited amount of keratin tissue, is really healthy, and in many cases, it the marginal gingiva grow over the crown, not instead of recessions. This is really also really important. So it's from these parts. Okay, ideal fixture design is really important. So thread, I emphasized mainly on the concept of core and thread and double offsets. And we have many different parts to consider, but that is the most important part. And with these ideal fixtures, which can give us very good initial stability, even at loose bone, and no decrease on ISQ value, and in addition, as technology, we can make earlier loading. The final restoration, the final result can be almost same. Can be almost same. You can use any implant system to make a very good result. But for the process, so how simple it is, how we can shorten the patient's unloading period. That is one of our interesting parts of developments. I hope we can go together for the better future. Thank you very much.
Dr. Park, I really want to thank you for, first of all, your time and for this comprehensive presentation on aspects of implant designs, because it's truly very important for all the implant surgeons to know when they want to choose a proper implant. The importance of the thread design, the importance of the neck of the implant, the body of the implant, and how to make us be able to save more bone instead of grinding the bone and try to increase the stability with other solutions. With such designs, with knife thread designs, with those double offset design, it's possible for us to save the bone in the easiest and fastest without having any concern. So one of my questions is this: because of the time that we have narrower, so the first thread is we don't have the first thread in the any ridge design, and it's good to have bone in the crestal area. And also in case of any pre-implantitis, then it's easier for the surgeon to be able to clean the area and to maintain the case and prevent progression of disease. But sometimes when we place these kind of designs into the fresh sockets and extraction sockets, or sometimes when we are placing the platform of the implant 1 or 2 millimeters below the crest, then when we want to and put the healing abutment on top, it's not easy to fit on the platform because it's narrow and we have bone around. So what's your recommendation to make us able to place those healing abutments on the implants if we are placing them 1 to 2 below?
Good questions. And in my surgery, I do bone graft with the connection of a copper screw instead of. Sometimes I place healing abutments, but it's quite big. It's not easy to place bone graft, and then bone graft enough amount of bone graft, and I remove the copper screw and replace with the healing abutments. Of course, we need to be careful. There is no bone particles on top of the platform. But in most cases, it's not a big problem. But even the presence of a bone graft material on the platform or not is not very important. So we are just making scaffolding of new bone with bone graft, and the blood clotting is very important. So no need to fill to the top of the implant fixtures. So blood clot is more important, and the sealing around the marginal gingiva is more important than amount of bone, I think.
Yeah.
So, uh,
And,
we need to be careful, but
yeah.
very important.
And one thing, in my experience, I think you can be agree with it, but one of the benefits of this design is that we can gain maximum ISQ possible even without having a maximum insertion torque. So usually in different implant designs, as you said, for example, ISQ of 45 Newton centimeters with ISQ of 70 is good for immediate loading. But I think in any ridge design, because of the knife threads, maybe even with 30 Newton centimeter insertion torque, we can have 70 ISQ. Do you think it's correct, or do you think it's possible?
We don't have enough data, but yes, even with a low number of insertion torque, so we can do one stage or we can do immediate loading, but it's I think it depends on your expert. If you have enough experience, okay, you can try, but I don't want to recommend it to the beginners.
Yeah.
So that's why we made a guideline for 45 and the 75 ISQ numbers. In most cases, in more than 90% of case, you will be able to get the more than 40, 50 Newton centimeter torque force. And as I'm worrying, many doctors are worrying about too much insertion torque instead of too low insertion torque with any range. So even with 100 Newton centimeter torque force, actually nothing happens. You need to take care of the hex, internal hex connections. It can be broken during implant placement in some cases. But if you have a much less insertion torque number, it's better to wait a little bit more, some weeks.
Yeah, but my point was that, do you think ISQ is more important or insertion torque?
In my mind, insertion torque. ISQ, insertion torque. ISQ can make false numbers, and you can check if we have only 1 or 2 millimeter cortical bone, very good quality of cortical bone, and underneath there is nothing. So even in this case, ISQ number can be quite high. So both are important. Without excellent insertion torque, we cannot try earlier loading or immediate loading. But without ISQ number, with only ISQ number, I think that's not good indicators for immediate loading.
So that was.
So for ISQ numbers, for ISQ numbers, we need to have many different time. We need to check the many different times. We need to see the tendency of ISQ. Okay? So that one time, the first time at the beginning, at the surgery, insertion torque is much more important than ISQ. ISQ is to check this initial stability. The insertion torque can be maintained or drop down. So that's the reason of ISQ.
Yeah. That was actually one of my main questions, because at first I thought that ISQ can be more important than insertion. But as you said, with ISQ we can follow up the case and to see how the curves go. But insertion is more important for the.
Yeah.
Exactly.
When you need to see the history of ISQ. when ISQ machine and guideline made, the design of implant was mainly with conventional thread design. So all the company recommended not to make the high torque. So 30 to 40 was normal insertion torque, recommended the insertion torque. So if we do too much torque, definitely there was more necrosis, and then the ISQ drop down was higher, much higher. So at that time, the ISQ value was considered more important than the insertion torque. But now with a different thread design, so at the beginning, we don't need to care about the ISQ number too much. Insertion torque can make a very good ISQ number as well.
ISQ numbers. Dr. Park, I think it's a very interesting topic and we can talk about it for hours, but I again want to thank you for your time and for accepting this invitation. I really enjoyed the presentation. I'm sure all the audience did. And thank you so much again for this, and stay safe and hope to see you very soon.
Thank you very much. You too. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.